A couple of days ago, I made a video about all the new mechanoid related stuff in RimWorld Biotech, and since then, Tynan posted a new blog post concerning children, reproduction, and genetic modding. Those three things will be major talking points of this video as we prepare for RimWorld Biotech, which is really close now, and I couldn't be more excited. If you didn't know, it's releasing on Friday the 21st of October, so like 4 days from now. Now, let's talk about reproduction in RimWorld. There are multiple ways to reproduce. Of course, there's natural way where mommy and daddy love each other very much and then butterflies and bees and stuff happens. They could also find a surrogate mother or gestate an embryo in a machine. It seems like we're gonna be able to play a matchmaker as well and encourage colonists to make a move on their love. And I'm totally sure that's not gonna lead to some crushed dreams and then burned colonies. Nope. Not at all. When a woman does get pregnant, it takes 18 days before birth. In that time, the mother will get quite big, quite slow, and quite hungry, leading to morning sickness and huge mood swings. Now, I wonder how that's gonna work when she goes on an assaulting spree and then the person she insulted 15 times stabs her with a rusty shiv. I just hope you're equipping your mothers with some proper body armor. After all that comes birth. As you would expect it is difficult and dangerous, but if you want to, you can actually turn off complicated births in storytelling settings, so if you don't want to play with that, you don't have to. You'll need a clean birthing room, so research those sterile tiles really fast, and mother's gonna need some supportive family members, and definitely not Steve, who shivved her after she insulted him. And of course, you'll want a skilled doctor as well. The better prepared you are for birth, the safer and easier it's gonna be for the mother and the kid. Now, if you don't want to deal with that, you always have an option to research and build growth vats. You'll need to combine genetic material of both parents, of course, to create an embryo and then stick it into a vat. It speeds up the embryo development to only 9 days, down from 18, at which point you can take it out and have your new baby, or you can also leave it inside to grow and rapidly mature into a full human being. We'll talk about that part later. Let's focus on babies and children next. Up to age 3, babies will be babies. They'll eat, they'll sleep, and they will play. And you'll need people to keep an eye on them. And with that comes a new work type called childcare. You'll need to feed them special baby food because babies can't live on cooked rat meat with a side of rice or potatoes. So if there's no mother around to breastfeed them, animal milk or insect jelly will do, or you can cook them their special gooey baby food. Babies also require nursery rooms with toy chests, decorations, and cribs. Now, DevBlog here mentions that you'll want high quality cribs made out of good materials, and if those babies, if they think I'm spending my precious plasteel on their stupid cribs, well, they're wrong. But you do want to make your babies happy because that will also make their parents happy and vice versa. If they're not happy, well, as an uncle in real life, I can confirm that babies crying is pretty much the worst thing in the world, even worse than eating without table. When they reach age 3, the little rascals will start walking and talking and causing mischief, as you can expect. Children will have unique learning needs you'll need to fulfill, and on top of that, they'll focus on specific things that will interest them at a time. They'll do stuff like chat over radio, explore nature, which hopefully doesn't mean they'll wander out of the base into like a panther or cobra infested rainforest, because that's not gonna end well. They'll also scribble on the floor, take lessons in class, daydream, watch adults work. Basically, fulfilling their learning desires is going to be important as it will improve their development process. At the ages 7, 10, and 13, they'll reach growth moments where you get to choose their passions and traits and unlock new work types. If they had a rich childhood and you fulfill their learning desires, it will give them a greater variety of good traits to pick from, giving them a chance to become a more capable adult. And you know what makes me a more capable adult? More subscribers. Yes, that's how I measure my life's worth. So please, do subscribe now! Jokes aside, as I mentioned before, if you decided to keep that embryo inside the vat tank past the 9 days, you can keep on growing it until it's a proper adult. but that strips away the chance for them to have a rich childhood, meaning they'll have a much poorer choice of traits at their growth moments. But they will mature much faster, giving you fully grown adults in really no time. But growing them in a tank will require a lot of nutrition apparently, or you might risk your future humans suffering from biostarvation. And I also wonder what happens when power fails. We do not know yet. Anyway, keeping them fed and keeping the lights on should allow you to produce cheap, simple workers for your mines and farms really fast, or genetically engineered super soldiers, but for that you will need some gene modding, and that's what I want to talk about next. So, to create xenohumans, you will need gene packs. You can either purchase these, earn them as quest rewards, or what I assume is gonna be the most common practice, extract them from a host using a high-tech gene extractor. And unlike the subcore rep scanners I talked about when we discussed the mechanoids that you need for advanced mechanoid pets, this one is actually harmless, so no war crimes for you. The gene extractor is gonna give you a random assortment of specimens, germline genes and xenogenes. I'm sure you wonder what that is. So, germline genes are the usual stuff like the skin color or hair that can be passed on to children. Xenogenes, on the other hand, are tech implants that cannot be passed on children, of course. You'll need gene assemblers that can recombine several gene packs into those implants called xenogerms. I'm sure it's very confusing, but I'm sure it's also going to be pretty simple when we play. And when you implant those, the colonist instantly gains the traits that are associated with it. Now, for some examples. You can see some in the picture behind me, and the dev blog states there will be over 200 genes available. I assume a lot of these will be aesthetic, but some seem quite powerful. We learn about fire spew that allows pawns to spew flammable bile, long jump legs for jumping over long distances, fur skin for cold insulation, and of course furry love, smooth tails for an extra dexterous limb that increases manipulation, strong stomach making pawns immune to food poisoning, and quite a lot more that all sound really cool and very useful in certain ways. I'll link the blog post below so you can check them all out yourself, but I gotta say, I'm really excited to play around with them, and when this goes live, it's going to be huge. When you combine these genes, you'll have restrictions called gene complexity, basically limiting you how many genes you can combine into a single xenotype. There's also something called metabolic efficiency, basically making your colonists consume more food with good genes and less food with bad genes. The goal here is basically balance of strengths and weaknesses, and blog gives us 2 examples of that. A muscular cave dweller who is afraid of the sun, and a sleepless genius who needs smoke leaf to survive. Basically, the possibilities here are endless, and I for one would gladly trade my colonists requiring more food if that makes them superhuman. It seems like a pretty easy trait. Last thing mentioned on the blog post was that the most powerful genes, which are otherwise impossible, like perfect immunity, super healing, and immortality, will require archived capsules. Those are small containers produced by architects, which probably means you'll have to do some ancient artifact hunting if you want to make your colonists really super powerful or immortal. And you won't be able to craft them yourself is what we're assuming over here. But, well, that's where the mods will kick in, and I'm sure loosening restrictions and allowing you to make pawns that could single-handedly destroy the whole world. And you know what? I'm all in there. Now, if I had to choose amongst all of these new features in biotech, what I'm most excited for is gene modding. There's just so many different possibilities for unique playthroughs here, and that's where RimWorld really shines. There's one more blog post promised before the release on Friday, and if we get some exciting news there, I will make sure to cover it as well. Now, you tell me, what are you most excited for and why?